Our readings today are all about recognizing God's presence and serving the God who comes to us. Abraham was amazingly attuned to the voice of God in his heart and in his life. Abraham always listened. And God had promised Abraham a son for years and years. But until this point, no son was conceived or born. Yet Abraham kept his faith and hope and trust in God alive. And part of that hope and trust was service. Abraham welcomes 3 strangers, doing all he could to make them comfortable, to serve them. He met their need for rest, for food, and for drink. He waited on them, served them, listened to them. And when they spoke, it was with God's voice, renewing the promise, rewarding Abraham and Sarah for their trust in God, for their continued hope in God's promises, and the service that marked it all. In our gospel, we see another account of God coming to us. In our gospel, Jesus is at Martha and Mary's home. Mary is truly listening to his words, seeing something of who Jesus is, and understanding the importance of his visit, the wisdom of his words, the kindness of his presence. Unfortunately, Martha missed out on all of that. She wanted to follow the example Abraham gives us in our first reading, to welcome God, to provide for God's needs in the visit of God's messenger, with the best of intentions, being faithful to the rules of hospitality, superseded even Jesus, let alone anything Jesus had to say. Martha even becomes resentful of her sister. She chides Jesus about Mary's seeming disregard for the obligations of hospitality, which she values above all else. Nevertheless, when we understand the situation, Mary was more hospitable in what really mattered. She honored the person of Christ and listened to the words of Jesus, allowing her heart and her mind to be filled and changed. Jesus had important things to share and to offer. So Mary truly honored Jesus by offering him, by giving him the space to make that offering. And poor Martha, still my favorite. Poor Martha missed out on what was most important in those moments. In his letter to the Colossians, St. Paul ties these two together, gives us the reason why we must be attentive both to listening for Christ and in serving others. It is the mystery revealed in Jesus Christ. For Paul, the word mystery equals God's divine plan for salvation. And that mystery is summed up by the Son of God who empties himself taking on the form of a slave. So Jesus is born. Jesus grows in grace and age and wisdom. Jesus serves, he teaches, he eats with sinners, he forgives people, he heals the sick, he raises the dead, he suffers and dies and rises again. And now St. Paul reminds us that he dwells in each and every one of us, inside us and in every person that we meet. This is the mystery. God's plan for salvation. God continues to be present and at work in us and through us. But he also works in and through others, each according to his or her own openness and acceptance. Therefore, our call for each and every one of us, no matter our state or our age or our position in life, our call is to be and to bring the Christ within us out to others. Seeing in the other, no matter how faint the image or contrary our thoughts, seeing in the other Christ, who lives in the other, who lives in each of us, and in whose image you and I, but also the other, was created. Think about your day today. When you saw or missed Christ in everyone you encountered. That idiot on the Beltway, the loudmouth bore in the pulpit, the child crying on the playground. Can you imagine still, even with this facade, with this face, reaching out and serving Christ, allowing Christ to touch your heart, to move you to generosity? I am reminded only because they're here, but I saw an example of this today because I went to the store. And who was in the line checking out next to me but Omar? He was checking people out, and in such a kindness and a gentleness and a generosity that he's showing right now to his little brother. That is seeing and serving Christ, listening first to the words Christ offers, and then sharing the image one receives. So tell him, kudos to him. Being and bringing others to Jesus Christ is no easy task. It's about living and modeling gospel values, speaking words of comfort, consolation, even in difficult situations, continuously offering generously, even when that generosity is refused. Because when we listen to the voice of Christ, when we see the God who visits us, when we seek to serve him all in the other, we are choosing the better part, and God will not deny us.